Hamas refusing to disarm, is not different than if Germany in World War II refused to unconditionally surrender. Hamas is worse than Germany, because Germany gave up and disarmed when they realized that many civilians were dying and their cities bombed. It is common sense, and you can stay alive and fight another time, when you will be stronger. Now they talk for resistance, but same time they cry to all the world for intervention. Hamas recently rejected another ceasefire opportunity because it refuses to give up its weapons. The idea that there can be peace or a permanent ceasefire, without Hamas disarming is silly, and its refusal to do so would be no different from Germany asking for an end to World War II without agreeing to disarm. Note that when WW II ended, Germany and Japan were compelled to surrender unconditionally and disarm completely. This was not a suggestion, it was a necessity. The Allied powers at the time knew that there could never be peace with these regimes, as they had launched wars of conquest, destruction, and committed atrocities on a massive scale. Disarmament at the time was not merely a negotiating point, it was an objective prerequisite for stability, justice, and the rebuilding of nations. Allowing Germany and Japan to remain militarized would have hampered peace efforts and undermined the gains from the war. Similarly, Hamas today cannot remain armed if people actually care about peace. Their brutality, not only to Israel but to their own people, is well documented. And not to mention that their leaders are on record expressing desire and promises that events like October 7th would happen again and again. Their goal isn't peace, but the destruction of Israel. Don't take my word for it, take theirs. Allowing militarized remnants of the Nazi regime or the Japanese imperial war machine to remain intact would have been a betrayal of global peace efforts and a direct threat to post-war security. For Israel, similar to the Allies' powers back then, a demand for disarmament is not just political posturing. It's a necessity for peace. A ceasefire without surrender or disarmament would allow Hamas to regroup and rearm, just as it has done repeatedly in the past. To oppose Hamas's disarmament is essentially to argue that a group responsible for deliberate civilian massacres, hostage-taking, and decades of incitement should retain its war-making capabilities. Imagine if Germany had asked to retain the SS, or if Japan had demanded to keep its kamikaze units under the guise of self-defense. The world would have seen those demands for what they were, a refusal to accept defeat and a recipe for future bloodshed. Disarmament and surrender are not just symbols of defeat, they're the first steps toward genuine peace and accountability. History has shown us what happens when violent ideologies are allowed to fester under the guise of resistance or national pride. For any meaningful peace to take hold, especially one that can ensure long-term safety for both Palestinians and Israelis, it's pretty clear that Hamas needs to disarm. I would go so far as to say that anyone opposed to the disarming of Hamas is more fueled by anti-Israel sentiment than actual care and concern for Palestinians.